10 lessons from Chip Wilson's Black Stretchy Pants, the story of how Lululemon came to be, and ultimately what you can learn as a sportswear designer, as a brand entrepreneur, as just someone who's interested in how to make a successful brand. What is the story behind Lululemon, and what is the secret to the success? Well, that's a question that I often ask myself, and a lot of my customers, a lot of our clients ask us, how do we emulate some of these successes of these top brands? Number one is ultimately that the best products solve a personal problem. If you look at Chip's experience with Lululemon and actually the story behind how he started it, Chip was insanely aware of the fact that a great quality product needed to solve a problem. If you really analyze your customers and you try to understand what they need, and you look at their day-to-day life, their actions, their aspirations, their dreams, their ambitions, and you analyze specific areas of problems that they might have, well, this presents an opportunity to really create value. And when you create value, you get success in return. So with Chip, he had an exposure to his first yoga lesson at the late 90s. He was suffering from back problems and he decided to partake in this emerging trend of yoga, which was touted to have life-changing benefits in terms of just holistic health and helping with chronic pain, specifically in the back area. When he entered into his first yoga class, he noticed the demographic of women between the ages of 20 and 30. He also noticed that for the majority of them in this hot yoga class, they're all wearing pretty much just their rundown clothing that didn't really allow them to perform the movements and the sort of motions that a yoga class required. He also noticed the instructor wearing dancewear at the time. So dancewear was some of the world's first spandex clothing, but the idea with the existing dancewear is that it was typically cut too tight, which ended up making the fabric shiny and see-through and uncomfortable for use, just because in general, the idea of thick, plush, durable, compressive, fun, and flexible fabric still was not at the forefront at the time. And he noticed that this was hindering the customers and the yoga practitioners' ability to partake in what they loved. Lesson number two is that branding trumps traditional marketing. Where most brands focus on pumping ad dollars into campaigns, into editorials, what Chip noticed was that by creating a strong community and a strong brand, the word of mouth of the idea of the brand would spread way faster than any effective marketing campaign could. He wanted the nuances of the brand to be available for those in the know and for those who resonated with the brand to feel like they were on the inside of something special, of something unique, of something exclusive. Each and every single brand ambassador is just someone who Chip had asked for advice in the beginning. These were yoga practitioners. These were people that were in the mix, that were in the community of yoga. And what Chip would do is he would bring them on as design advisors. He would hold these meetings with them and he would ask them for their opinion. He would ask them for their feedback on what needed to be improved, how products could be made better, what needed to be changed, what was missing in the market. And these represented the first authentic brand ambassadors for the brand. They would wear the clothing, they would go out, they would spread the word about Lululemon. And the idea here is that he could get a much higher return on his investment for putting his time, money, and effort into these brand ambassadors that were what we call today as micro-influencers, versus what Nike and Adidas and Puma were doing at the time, which was spending millions and millions of dollars on high-profile ambassadors that lacked the authenticity to represent the brand. Lesson number three is ultimately that quality creates demand, not the other way around. It's not the fact that when I have the demand, then I'll focus on creating a quality product. Chip, from his early days, really focused on creating high quality clothing. In the beginning, West Beach had all local manufacturing in Canada with Italian tailors in order to enhance and to maximize the quality of the products. And then when Chip became exposed to Eastern Asian manufacturing, he picked the best of the best. He developed custom-made technical fabrics that were high-performing, that were comfortable to wear, that didn't pill, and he stood behind his products. He understood that when you create high-quality products and you are able to stand behind those products, that you're going to stand above the rest. You're going to have something there that's unique, that's special, that people are going to come back to. Anyone who's purchased a pair of Lululemon leggings or a bra or an ABC pant will understand that these are products that stand the test of time. These are products that in 5-10 years you can still wear, which in the era of fast fashion, in the era where every single person is just pumping out product for the sake of pumping out product, this stands out, and this makes you so that you are comfortable to pour $100, $200 into a Lulu product, knowing that 5 years down the line, you're still going to be getting use out of it. But if you're unable to deliver, this is where you feel like a fraud, and this is where people feel scammed. The challenge here is in creating the right product at the right quality with the right details and the right value, and then you can charge what is necessary. When you treat your product as a commodity, people will price it as such. Lesson number 4 is that ultimately, community is the best sales strategy. When you'd walk into an Adidas or a Nike, you had sales staff across the floor. They didn't drive the customer towards what was right for them, but more that what was right for the brand. When you talk to a Lululemon educator, you're not talking to someone who's there to sell you. You're talking to someone that is there to educate you on the value of the product and to guide you for what is right for you. Chip even went as far as recommending his competitor brands like Nike or Adidas in the event that educators genuinely felt like Lulu's products were not going to be the right fit for their customer. This level of honesty and authenticity made customers feel comfortable. At the end of the day, when educators were having conversations with customers, Chip also forbade them from mentioning that anything looked good on them. At the end of the day, they were to educate the customer, to provide an insight into the value of the product, and to let customers to make their own decisions. This type of non-aggressive, non-pushy sales and allowing customers to pick and choose what was right for them created this sense of community and choice in Lululemon that was very rare and is rare to this day. Lesson number 5 is that scarcity ultimately creates demand. The early days of Lululemon, and even up until now, were focused on avoiding wholesaling at all costs. You could only get a Lululemon product if you were to enter a Lululemon store. And even within the first couple of years, Chip was very hesitant towards franchising versus what you would compete with or what you would look at with competitors like Nike that were heavily wholesaling and relying on the majority of wholesale business for pushing their product. Yes, they were able to grow much faster, but there was just something about the brands that didn't feel as coveted and as special as a Lululemon product. At the same time, Chip had a rule which said that if a customer would call into a store and try to reserve a product, the educators would tell them that this was not possible. So they're always motivated to actually make the purchase. And that was a level of scarcity that led to customers engaging with the brand and making it feel much more coveted than other brands. Lesson number 6 is that product design should always be intentional. Chip would continuously ask himself, how could I create the best pair of leggings that someone would want to wear, not just in the yoga studio, but out and about? He created his core customer avatar, which he called the Supergirl. The idea of the Supergirl was the 20 to 30 year old that was making good money, that was motivated, that was trying to balance all aspects of her life, whether it was her personal, financial, career, in order to move her life forward. He knew that these customers would be willing to pay 2 to 3 times what they were paying for their competition for a product that delivered. He also knew that these people needed products that were versatile, that could go into the yoga studio, into the gym, into coffee, out and about. And what he noticed was at the time that most leggings left women feeling uncomfortable because of how shiny they were, how see-through they were. It was what and how can we achieve a solution to every single challenge that our customers face through intentional and focused design. Lesson number 7 is find your niche and completely dominate it. In the early days of Lululemon, they were only focused on yoga. Pretty much for the first 10 years, they went heavy into yoga apparel, providing all sorts of different products that a woman or a man partaking in yoga would need in order to partake in the sport. It's only once they achieved market saturation that they began to expand into other areas of fitness like running, weightlifting, so on and so forth. Start in a niche, focus on one customer or 2 customers, and then once you have achieved a foundation, you can expand from there. Lesson number 8 is to control your retail experience or your customer experience. Like I mentioned before, even to this day, Lululemon does not wholesale. They do not go through wholesalers for the most part. They are a direct-to-consumer brand through their stores. And Chip understood that in order to provide and to maximize the brand perception, that every aspect of the customer journey needed to be controlled and needed to be sort of made and curated. Whether it was entering the store, the smell in the store. There's a funny story about the first Lululemon store having an issue with some of the scented oils that were in the store falling on the carpet that was put there on the time and completely soaking the carpet. What had happened at the time was that soaking of the oils into the carpet left a nice aroma and a nice smell that was intoxicating over the next 6 to 7 months. And this gave Chip an idea of how customers wanted to engage with their physical experience and the buying experience of the stores. What Chip did was he created a store where when you entered, you could see everything at once. And all products were categorized in according to product category as opposed to by colorway and by size. What this allowed you to do was at a glance to see all the products lined up and to understand at a glance which product was for you. And then when you enter the section of that product, you could then look at what size was for you by looking at the store and at how the pegs were arranged, and then find the color for you. Lesson number 9 is to take risks and to innovate. At the time, the idea of yoga wear was completely novel. Chip was definitely 5 years ahead of schedule when it came to yoga apparel. Nowadays, we look at this in hindsight and say, yes, this was always going to happen. People want high quality athleisure apparel, which by the way, Chip Wilson hates the term athleisure. He prefers the term street tech or technical apparel. The idea here is that he sees this clothing beyond just a leisure identity. He sees it as clothing that is functional first and foremost and serves a functional purpose through its fit, fabric, and function. And he also emphasized that by being ahead of the trend, this was a risk, because if the market was not ready and prepared to actually consume the product that you were offering, then all of this effort, all of this hindsight was pointless. And this is something that he did exceptionally well, which was actually look at and identify trends well in advance in order to maximize his position when the time came. So take risks, innovate, go where people are not willing to go, and do so boldly but smartly as well. Number 10 is that brand culture is absolutely everything. Not only was Chip obsessed with curating the customer experience in the stores, but he was also obsessed with curating the company culture within the company itself. Chip was one of the first entrepreneurs to look at the staff and the workforce as a driving force towards the customer experience and the brand experience altogether. He encouraged his staff not only to set business goals and career goals, but also to develop personal goals in 1, 3, 5, and 10-year increments. He wanted customers and he wanted his staff to see Lululemon as a driver towards their own personal growth rather than just the growth of the company. He wanted them to see that through the company that they could earn more, they could become more, and they could live a healthier and more balanced life. This thought process, this thinking, this culture created a team of highly motivated staff, of people that were willing to go above and beyond to deliver the best possible brand experience that ultimately seeped down into how customers experienced and had the outlook of the brand. Ultimately, Lululemon didn't just build a yoga brand. They didn't just create the world's first and most accessible, most famous pair of stretchy black pants. What they did was they set the tone for what an activewear brand could be and how much of influence it could have. They set the tone for what value you could offer into the market. If you guys are interested in learning how to build your own brands and you're motivated to do so and you want to make this year the year that you make that happen, you can check the link in the description. I offer one-on-one consultation calls. Whether you want to discuss branding, graphic design, product design, or whether you want to go through a book like this, you want to see what my takeaways from this are so that we can implement that into your own business. I offer one-on-one consultation calls and I do so every single week. Slots are limited, but if you do want to book that call, definitely take a look at the link. Also, if you want to learn more about what it takes to start your own sportswear and activewear brand, consider subscribing. We put out great content on a week-to-week basis and we'd love to have you along for the ride. Guys, I say this from the very bottom of my heart. Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of Fittdesign TV. Until next week's episode, stay awesome.